nature is also a manifestation of the divine. We are all manifestations of the divine. So out of ignorance, what we do is we act in a manner which is not conducive to evolution. Therefore, we create confusion, contradictions, conflict, and whatnot. And thereby, we are releasing certain forces which have an effect which is against nature. And we have to undergo that process. That having released those forces, you need to experience the consequences of those forces. Number one. Now, the whole process of evolution is getting rid of ignorance. There is ignorance at every level. Now, this ignorance is what is called as primordial ignorance. This ignorance is not a normal level of ignorance. This is a primordial ignorance. Primordial ignorance in the sense it comes along with manifestation. Ignorance is nothing but limitation, is nothing but conditioning, is nothing but being fragmentary. Understand the point? See, the manifestation is an expression of the infinite divine in a finite manner. That is the fundamental aspect. So, anything and everything in manifestation can only be partial, limited, and conditioned by several factors. So this ignorance, what happens is, the fundamental ignorance, this covers everybody, irrespective of their level of evolution or anything, is considering that this life, the period in which we have a physical body, is the only thing we are aware of. We are neither aware of the past nor aware of the future. Because the body per se is physical, but the entity operating through that physical body is that divine consciousness. Well, without consciousness or life or what we call as prana and chaitanya, this body is useless. Body is functional because of the consciousness operating through it. And it comes into limitation. Because we do not know the continuity of life, the indestructibility of life, the eternal nature of life, we are under the ignorance thinking that this life, this period, the small time period which we spend on this earth with a physical body is the most important and the most real thing for us. Because we don't know anything beyond it. So you see, if we know that life is a continuum, we would also know very clearly the reason for our suffering. Because we do not know about this continuity of life, we imagine that we are undergoing unjustly, undeservingly, physical pain and mental agony. But this is a part of the whole system. The system operates in such a beautiful way that it allows you to go for what we call as better and better state of consciousness from the evolutionary perspective. There is always a forward movement only. Sometimes it may appear as a backward movement. Like the typical example that is given is of a small eddy of current of water. Suppose water which is flowing in a stream, if it hits a boulder or something, what happens? There's a whirlpool like a thing that forms at that point, which appears to be in the opposite direction of the stream. So somebody who is in that whirlpool would think that the whole damn thing is I am going backwards, retrograde. But that's only a temporary thing. It goes in circles and then moves forward again. But if we are stuck in that, we may be spending a few lives which could be very miserable because everything appears to be working against us. This is a way of preventing you to do further damage to yourself. That is the beauty of it. Suppose a child is running here and there. Why do we go after him and protect him from all directions and restrict his movement sometimes? Because he should not go and bang himself to a wall or a chair or a table or something and injure himself. So the restriction that is put is the best thing that nature does to us. It is preventing us from doing further damage to ourselves. That is the beauty of karma. They say there are karma devatas. They are called in the Buddhist literature as lipikas. We have the listing of Dharmaraja, Yamadharmaraja and Chitragupta. The word Chitragupta is very beautiful, you know. Chitra means strange. Gupta means secret. He keeps an account of your karma in a very strange and a secret manner. Chitragupta is not a person. Chitragupta is a mechanism, is a system in operation which acts in a very strange manner and in a very secretive manner. Nobody knows. That's why the Bhagavad Gita says, Dahana karmano gatihi. The movement of karma is very deep, inscrutable. Nobody knows. Sri Krishna himself says, Dahana karmano gatihi. So you see the point now? The positive aspect of all bad karma or restrictions on us are essentially the best thing that can happen to us because it prevents us from doing further damage to ourselves, not to somebody else. Obviously, in the process, we may be doing damage to others also because I can't act in isolation, isn't it? If there is evil in me, that evil will get reflected in society. The evil will affect my neighbors, my friends, my relations, my family, isn't it? So I'll be doing damage to them also. If somebody is not having limbs, or if somebody is having some serious illness, if somebody is not able to, doesn't have proper mobility, or some disability, it's actually a great boon. It's actually a great boon which is preventing us from doing further damage to ourselves. That is one fundamental issue. So any physical ailment has both the components of pain on one side, which is a physical experience, which even doctors say is very useful. If we were not to experience pain, we would die in a few days of our birth. Suppose you touch something hot and it doesn't burn you, or you don't feel the sensation of burning. What will happen? Your entire hand will get burnt. You don't feel it. So pain is a protective mechanism and it prevents you from doing excess of anything. If I keep on eating and eating and eating and nothing happens to me, I will die of asphyxiation. So similarly, physical pain is a very beautiful mechanism which warns us, which tells us that there is something wrong. You're not supposed to do this, stop it. No. In children, we see that if they have some physical pain, they may cry or they may become cranky or they may have some problem. But once the physical pain is gone, the remembrance of that pain is also not there for them. But unfortunately, as we grow, our experience, our memory, our knowledge creates a big hurdle. It creates a kind of fear. It creates anxiety. And we don't want a repetition of it. So we suffer on account of it. Pain is physical. Suffering is mental. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. As I was mentioning to Binaji yesterday, I've seen several people. They keep on cribbing and crying and weeping and saying, why did it happen to me? Why did it happen to me? Why do I don't deserve this and all that? They think that it should happen to their neighbor or somebody else and not them. But the esoteric truth of karma is whatever happens to us, we eminently deserve it. In fact, what is happening to us is much less than what we eminently deserve. Because the purpose of the system, the Karma Devatas, the Lipikas, the Chitragupta and the Yama and all, is to further the progress of evolution of each individual. It is not to kill them completely or destroy them. So, suppose I have done 100 wrong things. I will not suffer the consequences of all the 100 in one life. Because if that happens, I'll die. I'll not progress at all. So depending upon my stage of evolution, in a particular life, I may be only asked to undergo 5 or 10 of those 100. Once I gain strength, both physically, morally, spiritually, then I'll be given, instead of 10, they may give me 20. If you see the lives of great saints and sages, it was miserable. You understand the point?
They were, Krishnaphani ji, they were given that because they were able to take it and
Yes.
because they had to actually finish it.
They have to exhaust their karma.
Yeah.
You remember, I've been telling you during the discussions on Bhagavad Gita that the only two things that we need to do is consciously exhaust our karma or strive towards exhausting the karma and simultaneously start the process of purification at every level. Physical purification, moral purification, mental purification, spiritual purification, everything, every form of purification has to be very consciously implemented in life. These are the only two things. Consciously exhaust or move towards exhaustion of karma and strive for conscious purification. All the systems devised are based on these two fundamental aspects. So we undergo suffering because we are ignorant of the fact that what is happening to us is the best thing that can happen. There's a small pamphlet, I think I referred to it earlier also. There's a small pamphlet there, which was printed, which was written by one of the past presidents of the Theosophical Society, C. Jinnarajadasa. The title of it is, Thank God I Am Ill. Illness teaches us 100 things which wellness can never teach. If everything is hunky-dory, I would eat whatever I feel like I'll do, I'll sleep at whatever time I like, I'll enjoy whatever I want to do, my life will be a licentious kind of life. Isn't it? The moment I am ill, my food is restricted. The type of food is restricted, the quantity is restricted, my activity is restricted, my rest and recuperation is very disciplined. You see, it teaches us so many things. So that is the beauty of it. So the whole system operates in a manner which is conducive for our spiritual evolution, evolution of consciousness, evolution of life. That the more sensitive we become, the more we can see the beauty of it. We can see the beauty of it once we are sensitive to the whole thing. That's what is important. So you see, we need not suffer. We need not have any mental agony or anxiety or depression or anything for that matter, because what is happening to us is the best thing that can happen. If we lose money, that's the best thing that can happen. Because of our own foolishness, we do certain things, we lose money. We lost our health. Again, because of our foolishness and ignorance, we have abused the body, and the body could not take it for more, and then it becomes sick. If something else happens, that also is a part of it. Most of the time, sometimes it so happens that some things happen out of the blue and undeservingly. But apparently it is undeserving, but in reality it is the most deserving thing. So remember, I gave the example of the Buddha. Somebody accosted him while he was going with his disciples and abused him in the choicest terms. The Buddha was simply smiling. At the end of it, he thanked him very much. Thank you so much. Then the disciples were surprised. What the hell? He has abused you in such vulgar language and you are thanking him. He said, look at the beauty of it. Thousands of lives back, when I was in a very ignorant state, I had caused a lot of harm to him. Today, on his own, he came to me and abused me. I did not go to him. In fact, if you want to clear a debt, what should you do? You should go and pay it. But here is a man who came and collected it from you. So you see the beauty of it. Even the Buddha is not spared. So see, none of us are exempt from it. And we deserve more than what is happening to us. So nobody should feel that we have got less, or we don't have what we want to have, because these forces in nature, the whole divine system that is in operation, has given us more than what we deserve. Illness is one of them. It gives us a lot of time for contemplation, lot of time for deep thinking. It gives us time for meditation. If you remember, I did my first program in the School of Ancient Wisdom was on the model which I developed, which I called it as ECHO, way back in 2013 or 2014. I don't remember exactly. It was the 4 words. It's an acronym. ECHO is an acronym for ethical base, cultural milieu, holistic approach, and organized action. ECHO. Now, you know what? This idea took several years to mature and form into some kind of a presentation. But I had this idea, I think way back in 2000 or 2001, when I was involved in a small accident and I was confined to the bed because of a fracture. I was almost on bed for about 3 months. I had nothing else to do. I was simply sitting and reading. I can't even go to the washroom. I can't even go to the bathroom. I can't do anything. Everything I was confined to the bed. So I was doing a lot of reading, and in that process, strangely, this idea of echo came to my mind, which was, brewing it was taking its own shape. Ultimately, somewhere in 2012, 2013, I could elaborate on each of the aspects and collect a lot of material and then put it in the form of a presentation. And there was a 2-day, that was my first seminar or workshop at the School of Ancient Wisdom about 9 years back. So you see what that accident has given birth to this, this presentation. Later on, I gave this presentation at several forums in management colleges, in other, meetings and all that. And so I translated it into Telugu and I, presented it in some other, Theosophical Society branches and all. So you see, there is always a positive aspect to it. We should look at that, how it gives us an opportunity. And it also puts everything in the right perspective. What we thought or what we have been working and thinking that are very important, they suddenly become unimportant. Or they become hurdles, they become useless. If I have a fracture in my leg and my mobility is completely restricted, whatever the previous day I was thinking is very important, I should go and do this, I should go and do that, I should work on that, I should do this, all that is no longer of any importance. Shariramadhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. For all sadhana of dharma, first and foremost thing that is required is the body. Isn't it? So we need to take care of the body. So this suffering, when we talk about it, the mental agony part of it, we should understand that it is something which we are inflicting upon ourselves. It is self-inflicting. It is like self-pity. It is the ignorance of the actions of the divine forces which are trying to realign us. There is a realignment going on because of the disease, because of the illness. Once you recognize that, you enjoy that illness now. We actually see so many. See, there's a beautiful statement of Shakespeare. It says, "Sweet are the uses of adversity." Failure and adversity can teach you 100 things which success and prosperity can never do. Success and prosperity makes us arrogant, whereas failure and adversity will make us humble. So the karmic aspect is something which is a computer program which is 1,000,000 times or 1,000,000,000 times more efficient than what any human being can create in the working out of the 800 crore people that are there on the surface of this earth. Leave alone all the animals and plants and other things. There are billions and billions of those things. They have a parallel, they have an evolution of their own. If we unfortunately consider that the human beings are the most important creatures on the surface of the earth, even then the system is so efficiently run with the masters of the wisdom, the Mahatmas, the great ones. who are in charge of these operations, as it is mentioned in some of the theosophical literature, is they do it with consummate skill. We may be thinking that no, this war should not have happened. The master should know. Nobody stops anything. This is a huge thing. The system is so large that all these things are only aberrations which are there to correct the system, to bring it back in order. That is the fundamental message of the Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamya. Whenever there is a decline of dharma and a rise of adharma, then I manifest myself in the form of an avatara. Why? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge. And we have a wrong notion about an avatara also. Avatara need not be one individual. We can't decide upon how God should manifest or how he will manifest. In a particular point of time, he might have manifested as Sri Krishna as an individual who was taking care of all these things. But in a different context, he may come down as 1,000 people. Isn't it? All the good people in this world who are doing a lot of good work are part of the divine avatara. And Sri Krishna, if you look at his life, he was a miserable failure. You know, when the actual Mahabharata war took place, when Sri Krishna was in his 90s, age-wise, if you see for today's of this thing, he was quite old by that time. His sons were all, useless fellows. His children, own children. And he was a failure. He personally went to negotiate peace. He failed. In the Mahabharata, there is a peculiar story of a great sage called Udanka. He has been there for ages. And he was always in meditation in a remote place. The war is over. All the evil fellows have died. Only these 5 Pandavas were there. And everything is over. In some context, Sri Krishna meets Udanka. Then Udanka says, "Ha, you have come? You have prevented the war? Everything is fine? Have you negotiated and settled the matter?" This was a sarcastic way of asking and pointing out that you thought you were an avatara and a great person. You could not prevent the war. Then Sri Krishna very humbly says, "I did my best. I tried to prevent it in several ways. I asked for 5 villages. They refused to give. I went down to the lowest point of negotiation and said, if you just take the whole empire and just give them 5 remote villages, they will be happy." And he confesses to Udanka, says, "I have failed miserably in my activity." And he was the avatara of that divine, of which he was conscious also. Unlike Sri Rama, in the Ramayana, Sri Rama was never conscious of his divinity. Whereas Sri Krishna was very conscious of his divinity and repeatedly mentions that in the Bhagavad Gita itself, that I am this. I am that ultimate reality. But you see, when he comes into manifestation, he is also bound by limitation. He died at a remote place for about 5 or 6 days, I think. There was nobody to take care of the body also. Arjuna keeps come from somewhere and in search of him and discovers that this body is dead and rotting in a remote forest. Then he takes it and performs the last rites. His children did not do it. You see, if you go into the depth of it, you will realize, you will see the beauty of all this. So the Sanatana Dharma gives you all these, information about the avatars and also the limitations under which they worked and how they themselves had to undergo karma, how they themselves had to suffer. If that can happen to Sri Krishna, do we have any reason to complain? We have absolutely no reason to complain. In fact, we have all the reason to rejoice. So that fundamental aspect has to be understood by us, which will open so many vistas for our spiritual evolution. Never hold a grudge, never grumble, never cry and crib, never do anything wrong. Hold on to Satya and Dharma, because those are the two fundamental pillars of the Sanatana Dharma. Dharmam chara, Satyam vada. Taittiriya Upanishad in the convocation address, he tells the students who have completed their education, he says, Satyam vada, utter only the truth. Dharmam chara, walk on the path of righteousness. Satya dharmaya drishtaye, the Ishavasya Upanishad, there is a beautiful mantra. Show me your true face and the brilliance of it, which is covered by the golden disk of the sun. Satya and Dharma. Satya and Dharma. What keeps Satya and Dharma in dynamic equilibrium is Rutam. Satya is static in some ways, whereas Rutam is dynamic. Dynamic cosmic order, which is Dharma. You see, that clarity should make life very simple for us. I again am fond of repeating what I have been saying. Clarity and simplicity. If you have that clarity, life becomes simple. And if you have gratitude, humility comes on its own. Be grateful for what we have, including the disease. So that makes that brings about humility. One cannot cultivate humility, as J. Krishnamurti says. You can't cultivate humility. It is there when you have that gratitude. Clarity and simplicity, gratitude and humility. What more do we want? Life is so simple now. So, the moment our perception, our perspective changes, there is a unimaginable transformation. Yes, I think I have spoken enough for more than 35 minutes. Binaji, you have another question, you said?
Yes,
Can I discuss that also?
yeah, we can.
Okay.
So this one actually comes from page 5 on the essays of the Gita.
Okay.
So I'll read a little part of it. So
Okay.
it says, but what we can do with profit is to seek in the Gita for the actual living truths it contains, apart from their metaphysical form, to extract from it what can help us or the world at large, and to put it in the most natural and vital form and expression we can find that will be suitable to the mentality and helpful to the spiritual needs of our present day humanity. Now, the
Right.
next part is really the more important thing. No doubt in this attempt, we may mix a good deal of error born of our own individuality and of the ideas in which we live, as did greater men before us. But if we steep ourselves in the spirit of this great scripture, and above all, if we have tried to live in that spirit, we may be sure of finding in it as much real truth as we are capable of receiving, as well as the spiritual influence and actual help that personally we were intended to derive from it. So, really,
And
what's I think what's being said is that, based on our level of evolution,
yeah,
that is what we are going to get out of the Gita, which is why I think we keep evolving. So, it's very necessary for us to keep reading it because we are going to slowly get deeper and deeper meanings from the Bhagavad Gita.
yeah. And see, the term which he uses is
Hmm.
actual living truths
Yeah,
it contains.
right.
These are not dead words.
Yeah.
They are actual living truths
Hmm.
which can be understood only when we live them. Only when we live them, it
Hmm.
becomes that.
Correct.
And also, as he says, in the most natural and vital form and expression we can find that will be suitable to the mentality
Hmm.
and helpful to the spiritual needs of our present day human.
Right. Right.
That's the crux of it.
So it's eternal,
It
and
is eternal.
yeah, yeah.
Called Sanatana Dharma precisely because for that reason.
Hmm.
See, and he brushes aside in the last sentence and says, and
Hmm.
that is after all what scriptures were written to give. The rest is academical disputation or theological dogma.
Right, right.
All that is of no consequence to us. It is whether we have tried to live in that spirit.
Correct.
That is the most important part of it. So very interesting thing, Sri Aurobindo, being a saint of a very high order and a, what do you call as, a seer,
Hmm.
he could visualize and tell us how one can derive the best of the content of the Bhagavad Gita and mold it to our own individual requirements. After all, we are all bound to make only errors and mistakes and blunders. That's quite common.
Right.
What is important is to realize those things and then realign ourselves to what is the right thing to do. It's quite natural. As I said, everything stems out of ignorance, out of limitation.
Yeah.
So when something comes out of ignorance, it is bound to be, leading us astray. So the whole purpose is to come to that jnana, and you come to it not in a positive manner. You come to it by denying ajnana in all forms. Deny it completely. Negate ignorance completely. See the nature of ignorance. Understand how it affects our lives. Once you negate that ajnana or remove that ajnana, then jnana is already there. You're not bringing it, bringing something new into existence. Adi Shankara in the commentary also very beautifully says that all practice is to remove ajnana. You don't bring any reality, create any reality or bring something new into the existence. Only the removing the veils, which is important for us. Then only we can come. Negate everything, because we can't start by trying to understand the unknown. We can only try to understand the known and the limitation of the known, the conflict that the known creates. How the known is the past, how the known is something dead. How long do we carry the burden of these dead bodies of the past? So we continue to do that, thinking that that is the most important possession of our life. Our so-called great experience, knowledge, our memories, and they're all dead and gone. Finished. But we have not done with it. We are not done with it. We continue in this process. That is the beauty of this scripture. And I can vouch for it myself, because every time I read it, a new insight, a new perspective comes to it in it. This has been said by so many authors, but I was thinking that, this could be a kind of exaggeration, and over importance being given to it. It's not true. Some of the best minds have written commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita in all languages. In English, one could have been sufficient. Why 100 are there? Because everybody had his own perspective. So, as Sri Aurobindo says in what you have just read, you take according to your capacity. There's an ocean out there. If you take a bucket, you'll get only a bucket full of water. If you take a tanker, you may get 10,000 liters of it. If you take a bigger tanker, if you take an entire train load, you'll get a. But as far as the ocean is concerned, nothing, it doesn't make any difference to it. How much you take has no meaning at all. So the ocean figuratively, represents the infinite, and everything on the shore represents the finite. The finite cannot affect the infinite, but the infinite can definitely affect the finite. Okay. So any other question or point for discussion? Kamalji? Yeah, please, Guruji, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Is
Yeah.
ignorance part of a guna?
No. See, primordial ignorance, as I said, is a part of the whole system which comes along with manifestation.
But we
Yes.
say when a child is ignorant till he becomes certain age, let's say 5 or 6 or whatever it is, thereafter we don't call a person who's become 6, 7, 8 and all ignorant, like we tell a child. So, but perhaps the ignorant, like you said, continues to be there in every person.
Yeah.
Like you said, that the 3 gunas are there in each person to a certain percentage, like sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, and all that.
Combination.
So that is why I was wondering whether ignorance, which you were describing.
Sir, I would rather use the term limitation than the word ignorance. Ignorance could mean lack of knowledge. It's not lack of knowledge. When I say ignorance has come along with manifestation, please don't take it as meaning the lack of knowledge as ignorance. No. It is the primordial limitation that comes along with manifestation.
Okay.
You understand the point? The Prakriti in manifestation comes into being only through limitation, and the gunas are inherent in Prakriti.
Okay.
So I would rather use the term limitation than the word ignorance. Because something unlimited, something infinite is becoming finite,
Okay.
is coming into limitation.
There's also a saying, the ignorance is a bliss, but it is folly to be wise.
Then it is folly to be wise. See, what happens is certain situations in life we can't correct. Okay? We have no power to set it right. But the knowledge of that makes us suffer. I'll give you a typical example. If a person has a son who is profligate, who is a vagrant, and who is a good for nothing fellow, but he lives somewhere else. Okay? And you can't correct him. You know that. This person cannot correct him, cannot put him back on the path he thinks is right. But he's away from it and he's behaving in the same manner. In such a situation, isn't ignorance bliss? Not knowing what that fellow is doing?
Perhaps.
So it is only situational.
Okay.
The so-called wisdom or ignorance from a worldly point of view is only situational and contingent in approach.
Okay. Got it.
But what I am talking about is the primordial ignorance. Ignorance right at the beginning of manifestation, which is nothing but limitation. It is that limitation which creates this problem. Problem in the sense, there can't be manifestation without the limited. There can't be unlimited aspects of manifestation. However vast, however large, however big, however huge and humongous it may be, it is still limited in its own sphere. Okay, sir?
Oh, got it. Like you said, you gave another example of clarity and simplicity.
Yes. See, life becomes very simple, sir.
Very true.
It can become very simple. And it would be nice if it becomes simple to us when we are in our teens and 20s.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen. That is where Sri Adi Shankara says that the Grihastha and Vanaprastha ashramas are not required technically. One need not become a householder and a hermit. One can directly from Brahmacharya, he can go to sannyasa. Once you know the truth, Krishnamurti makes another very interesting statement. It's very subtle. You know, all these great people have such wonderful insight into things.
No
He
doubt about it.
says, when you know the truth and don't act upon it, it becomes poison.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it poisons the whole system. It poisons you, your body, your mind, your surroundings, your relationship. Everything is poison. And look at the amount of poison we are carrying in us and around us, and continue to call this as living. When you know something to be true and you don't immediately act upon it, what happens then? It becomes
Problems.
poison.
Problems.
See the beauty of that statement? That's in that context only the story of a thief and a burglar and his two children is recited. The story. A burglar, he starts at work only at night, isn't it?
Right.
So he was teaching both his children how to. No, that was his profession. Huh? So once they were passing beside a temple in which somebody was giving a discourse on Bhagavad Gita. Immediately as they were approaching the temple, he asked both his children to shut their ears. Don't listen to a single word of what that fellow is doing. Say. But one fellow, the elder one listens to the father and closes. The other fellow is curious. Why is my father asking me to close? Let me hear. He hears some of the statements like dharma, adharma, truth and all that. Then his mind is now totally confused. So when he goes for burglary, he is in a dilemma whether to do or not to do. Is it right thing or not the right thing? And obviously, when you are in a dilemma, your efficiency becomes very low.
Correct.
Earlier, the father and son, the trio was they were very efficient. Now this fellow has become inefficient. He's not able to focus on the job he is supposed to do. He's not able to work with the same intensity and dedication which was there earlier. Because in a stupid manner he listened to some nonsense. No, that is the point. When you listen to the truth and don't act upon it, you make yourself your life miserable. Because it's no truth. If you know and you don't do it, most of the people have this problem. Yeah, I know, sir, smoking is bad, but I can't avoid it. That means you don't know that it is bad. If I give you a bottle labeled poison and say, you know this is poison, why don't you take it? No, it's poison. Sir, I know, sir, drinking is not a good habit, but occasionally I do it. So slowly poisoning yourself. Either you know it or you don't know it. It's as simple as that. And nobody needs to tell you. Externally, no kind of help can come your way in that manner. Either you know or you don't know.
Right.
There's no, I know, I don't know, I know some and I don't know some. I have a fair idea, reasonable idea. All these nonsensical explanations and expressions in English have no meaning at all. But the mind can delude itself. Mind can delude itself. So many ways.
It runs wild at times.
Absolutely. That's the problem for all of us. It's for everybody. Nobody is exempt from this. Just because I am speaking, don't think that I do it. No, I also face the same conflict, same problems, same issues. I cannot leave some things, I cannot hold on to some things.
We don't
I can
live
take
in
a
the
decision
present.
for myself.
We seem to be living more in the past than the present.
It's obviously there, sir. We live in the past and fear the future. That's what is what. You can't leave some things. You can't hold on to some things. You compromise on everything. That is the problem. That is precisely where we are stuck.
No doubt about it.
Unless you have that clarity, life will not become simple.
Absolutely correct. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, sir. So it's 11:35. Shall we close it for today and take up the verses next time?
14, yeah, 14, 15 next time. When are we doing it next?
Say next Saturday.
Okay, fine. Done.
Next Saturday is 16th.
16th.
I will request the School of Ancient Wisdom to post it earlier.
Okay.
And I don't know if they have any problem, we can form a different group on Zoom. We have so many other connections are available on
Yeah.
Zoom or
That's
whatever
true.
it is.
We can check with them.
Yeah, I don't know because they may have their own constraints
Okay.
because of the issues that are there. So let us see what best we can do. Next week we'll have the session and the how we are going to have it and all. I'll try to see that it is posted at least one day in advance.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much. We'll close with the prayer. Om swasti prajabhyah paripalayantaham nyayena margena mahim mahishaah gobrahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam lokah samastah sukhino bhavantu lokah samastah sukhino bhavantu lokah samastah sukhino bhavantu Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Brahma Namastu. I will request the School of Ancient Wisdom to post this recording, YouTube or whatever means they have, so that those who could not attend it today can see that video. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Krishnaphani.
Thank you, Krishnaphani ji. And we would, on behalf of everybody here, we want to wish you a belated happy birthday for the 6th of April.
Oh, wish you a very happy belated birthday, Krishnaphani.
Yeah, yes. 6th of April was my birthday.
Yeah.
So I am now second level of seniority among senior citizens.
You're 70s, right?
65.
65.
65. Okay.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Krishnaphani ji.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pata.